right now, we're going to look at the building inspector job now. We don't know if he's still interested or this person is or is not. But right now, we're gonna vote to reclassify the position under the Personnel Board's authority. And then we'll relook at the salary grids and discuss it with you after, you know. How's that? Sound good with you?
Excellent.
What do you think? Yeah. Okay, so do I have a motion to reclassify the salary grade for the building inspector?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Now, just to be clear, we're gonna move it to H.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, motion passed. So we're gonna move the building inspector's classification to an H.
And Ray, if we could reach out to that candidate and just see if there's still interest there, and then, maybe that can rekindle a conversation to figure out where we go.
Sure, I can get that information from
That's
us.
the Delta shortcoming.
All right. I know it wasn't on the agenda, Ray, but the status of the other open positions, the assistant town administrator, where are we at with that?
We pulled the vacancy announcement.
I think we were gonna look at it with Tamara
Or at least do some.
for succession.
Yeah, Ray, I think last we left it with you, we were going with, Ellen had brought up a good idea, and we supported your action of pulling the position, notifying the candidates that we were gonna rewrite the position to be reflective of what it should be. Right? And then they could reapply when we repost the new position for the assistant town administrator, so it's more reflective of what we want those job
The
duties
town
to be.
administrator, more of a succession.
Yeah, more of a succession.
Successor to.
Because we
Right.
thought it read more of like a glorified, whatever, executive secretary, planner, so on and so forth is what we agreed at that point in time. So we did pull it, but we probably haven't rewritten it yet.
We
right?
haven't done anything to it yet.
Okay,
Yeah, so, and that's just a matter of capacity, but we can
Mhm,
prioritize that
mhm.
just so that we can get something
Okay.
before the board to review and to approve. I- I'm lost on who's going to be actually vetting this position description with Mike exiting, and without having a formal position for the actual town administrator position to base it off of. So I think it'll require a little bit more research than just putting together something. Kind of looking at other TA and ATA positions to
Right.
draft something for us.
So is there a job, I'm sorry, is there a job description for Mike,
Yeah.
for the town administrator right now, or no? Probably not.
There is a position
Oh, there is?
description for it right now. However, with it being out, it's subject to change. We're going to be very open to what these consultants.
Right, I mean, we haven't filled a
recommend.
job in 30 years, so I understand it's probably not.
Right. And I don't know when that position was written up. I don't know when that description was.
31
put
years ago.
Maybe it looks pretty recent, within the last maybe 10 years.
Mhm.
So I would get with Julie because I know she has a sense of urgency
Mhm.
on this. So I would get with her to see if they've thought about rewriting that job description, and if maybe they may have already started to do that.
Mhm.
My understanding is for the job description and for the salary, they're looking to see what the recommendation is from the consultant, and then we're going to compare and
Okay.
benchmark on our end.
Yeah.
So what's the
that-
time frame
that
on
makes
that?
sense.
Well, my understanding from our earlier session is that it's
Meeting.
going to be, the RFP is going to be out on Friday because
Yeah.
it's going to be over $10,000. It doesn't need to go out to bid.
Yeah.
And then from there, I think Julie said it would be a few weeks
Good.
for them to decide and
A few
Well-
weeks.
Yeah.
Why?
formality. And we
Pardon?
also, it's formality. It's, onboarding the position with the firm, whichever firm that they
Mhm.
decide to go with, and then moving the budget around with the finance committee to be able to afford them. And then they can
Mhm.
commence their service.
It's gotta be posted for
It's
what?
probably right.
It's not, what's it, 2 weeks or 30 days or something, right? It's gonna be posted for a certain period of time, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And that's another thing that we kind of need to clarify too. Would this be a posting that would fall under the personnel bylaws as they're written?
Right.
Where we
I-
want them to be?
Yeah, because this is a contract position,
Right.
so I don't,
I don't know the answer to
I didn't
Right.
see anything in.
that.
Well, it didn't sound like based upon the conversation that they really need the personnel board.
It sounded
Not for
more
that.
of a,
It's a
selectman
negotiation.
feel.
Yeah,
Right. Not for a salary, and not for salary placement. As far as the position description goes, I'm going to say that it's probably also up to the select board and not under the purview of the personnel board.
yeah,
I think it might be safe to say that if they decide that they want to fast track this and they have the ability to do it,
yeah.
given their sense of urgency,
Right,
I think we could support that.
Right,
most definitely.
when we land on what that job description looks like, I think it would behoove us to
Yeah.
to mirror and land on the assistant town administrator position at the same time and post it, because we probably have at least 2 or 3, 4 candidates that I would imagine are gonna want to reapply if they're still interested. And these poor folks have been hanging out in the wind since August, July, right? So like, it would be good not to do like one and then go, all right, well, once we get through this in like 4 more weeks, we'll start thinking about the ATA. Like, we should do it at the same time.
I agree.
I agree too. I mean, we'd have to approve the job
Yeah,
description and the grade,
Yep.
but yeah.
But at
most
least if we
definitely.
get the description, we can line it up
Yep.
with the proper
Exactly.
classification,
Agree.
That's right,
which wouldn't be what it looked like before, because it should look like what we need it to look like.
Right,
So we can classify it appropriately.
right.
right. Mhm. Good. All right, good. So then, so we'll deal with, those positions. We just took a vote on that. Whenever you have the town administrator's job description, if we can get a copy so we can, something for the, town, the assistant, and then we can, vote and reclass that position. And I think that's good on the current openings for now.
Yeah,
What's the only other one, Brady? Was it the treasurer collector, the only other one?
yeah, and that's the one
That's
there's.
the one we're gonna.
Then I gotta figure that out.
Yeah, they've
we're
got the
gonna-
consultant right
Okay.
now
Let the
working
consultant
part-time,
work
and
that.
Okay.
John, I think, comes
Do you,
part-time.
would you agree with that too?
The consultant's in place.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So,
I'm gonna say
you
yes.
know, exactly. I mean, the town administrator is critical.
right.
And I think the assistant also.
Yeah, I think the assistant,
Yeah,
but
Yeah,
I think
but
that,
we need a-
I know there's, the assistant's been gapped a long time, but I would personally be in favor of filling the town administrator first and having that person have some input on who their assistant's gonna be, not the other way around.
I think you put them both out there simultaneously and you get yourself good candidates.
I agree.
So that way you're not waiting.
All right.
I agree.
So you're not pigeonholed.
No, I just.
I think they should have some say if they get there first, but what if we don't get there first? We
Yeah.
can't afford for that to
Some
be open.
voting authority on the assistant town administrator position.
That one falls under the classification.
Right, and Mike was the one that was doing the hiring.
So it would be the new town administrator. However, in the absence of one, I believe it would default to the select board.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And I would just a recommendation on my end. These postings have been open for far too long. I
Mhm.
think it's a courtesy right now for us to be reaching out to, for example, anyone who's applied to the assistant town administrator
Agreed.
position. I won't be reaching out to them until we repost something.
Sure.
At this point, I'm going to say professionally that they have to move on. They've moved on.
Sure,
I would
And
bet
we could do the courtesy of letting them know we're going to repost it.
Sure.
right.
Yeah.
Agree.
Exactly.
But at this point, because it's been so long, it's been left open that the building commissioner,
Mhm.
the treasurer position, they've all been pulled. So until we get something that's in stone and we can post it,
Right,
there's nobody that's going to be contacted. But waiting until the TA position is, according to Julie, they're saying that it could probably take them about from 3 to 6 months to fill the position, to recruit and fill the position. If we want to wait that long for an ATA to come in and kind of be working on something,
No, I stand corrected.
this could go
That's
further
fine.
than Mike's.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
We can't afford
Come
to,
on.
honestly.
I mean,
No, you're right.
And if we got lucky and we posted it and we
Right.
found someone we really liked and they hired it and Mike was here for 2 more months while that person was here.
Right.
There's no harm in that.
Right,
I agree.
exactly,
You know, there's no harm in like a little bit of like,
agree.
here's what you might want to know, or here's what you need to know. And then, I don't know.
Yep, yep. Okay, good. All right, any more discussion on the existing positions open? All right, so let's move into if nothing else, we'll move into the bylaws. All right, so. Why don't we just start on page, do you want to start on page 5? Under the general provisions, purpose of authorization. Does anybody have any recommendations on purpose of authorizations, application, rules of interpretation, and definitions?
I did not.
I did not.
I didn't highlight anything either. I had a quick question on page 5 under D. Permanent part-time employee shall mean an employee working less than a 35-hour. Is that still accurate?
That's a great question.
So just meaning the definition of what a part-time employee is it 35? Is it less than 35? Is that the question?
Because it has 35 in the bylaw.
So we do have the designation of a permanent part-time employee, which is no different than a part-time employee by definition.
Okay.
Mhm.
In the employment world generally. The differentiating aspect here is that less than 35 hours, but more than 20 hours, so that they're a benefited employee.
Mhm.
So that the benefits are prorated. So that's, and that differentiates, that's different from our temporary and seasonal employees. So, and the only reason I paused on that is because I've seen very many different versions of the bylaw and some
Mhm.
edits. And I've seen them separated into two different categories.
Hmm.
So I'm not very sure where it stands. I'm assuming you have the same copy that I have in front of me.
Mhm.
So,
Joni, do you think it would be important to, I mean, what Ray just said, like it does say less than 35 in here, but it never says
Hmm.
any, it doesn't say more than 20.
20. I know.
Just
Yeah.
adding that in there just so it's
I would agree.
explicit.
Because it would at least cover.
It would just so that way people can't, well, I was less than 35. What were you more than 20? Like, should we?
I thought there
get
was
that so
something in
that-
here that says.
I do have language on, I don't know if it's a prior proposal, if it was something that was typed up before my predecessor left, that
Okay,
I happen to agree with that I can bring to the
Okay.
next meeting.
perfect. All right, good.
If you look at the, and I think they might address it on the next page, if you look at the top paragraph there, it does kind of allude to that where they change it. So now everybody making less than, or I'm sorry, not making less than, anyone that's working less than 20 hours does not get any benefits, but it does grandfather them in. It's the top of page 6. So it kind of,
On the date of the adoption.
so at
of-
some point they must have changed so now if you're under 20 hours, you don't get any benefits.
Mhm.
When this bylaw went through, somebody must have been
There must have
grandfathered or
been.
something. Yeah, when they went back to the state.
And then, yeah, so if you just want to bring your verbiage, because it's kind of, sounds like it's saying that.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
saying the same thing.
Trying to clean it up.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Have it be explicit.
Exactly.
Can I-
And then the next section was temporary seasonal employee.
Did you want to make a suggestion on something before we?
I actually wanted to make this, if it's
Yeah,
on the general review of the bylaws, I don't know if there is any specific game plan on how to look at them or how to.
we
go-
were just gonna take them, that as we're doing now. I
Um,
think we made some of our own notes and we're just gonna go through it.
Or,
what
my
do
only
you
recommendation
suggest?
is if we're looking to add like retention and recruitment efforts,
Yes,
that we jump to anything that would benefit an employee as we bring them on for the next fiscal year.
that's a
That
good,
would just be my only suggestion.
no, that's a good recommendation, actually. And it's
Absolutely.
appropriate as
Right.
as far as what we're going through.
Right.
Yeah. So I didn't have any questions on page 6, though. Establishment of the Personnel Board. The Board of Selectmen shall appoint a Personnel Board consisting of 5 members for the term of 3 years. Read off 5.
Say that again?
So we either have to reword that verbiage or we gotta get somebody. Cause it doesn't say up to 5 or, you know
No,
what
that's
I'm
what I'm
saying?
saying. So.
Yeah. Typically 5 would be because if there was a 2-2 and then the tie.
Right.
Just that,
If, you
just that
know,
no one's applied for it. That's
Yeah.
what's keeping us from
exactly.
appointing that 5th member.
Right. What's your thought on that, Ray?
We all need to know what the law is on that part of it. And it's actually something I'm doing research into, and also to bring that training to our boards and commissions.
Okay.
Well, I think 4 members should be registered voters of the town of Clinton, and then the 5th
Mm-hmm.
shall be a full-time, I mean, if they wanted to, employee under the
Mhm.
jurisdiction of the personnel board.
Agree.
Members of the personnel board shall serve without compensation, as we know, except for the, so you keep it the same current.
Yeah.
members, Yeah, but I think, going back to the last personnel board, there were certainly conflict of interest that did not get addressed with
Oh,
the decisions that were made for this town.
how many people were on it?
It was 5. So
It was 5, but there was like 3 of them, I think, were employees here that didn't recuse themselves.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Oh.
So that's my point. If you
Yeah.
want to be a full-time employee of the town, you should be under the jurisdiction of the 4 members of the
Exactly.
personnel board.
That's
So we
right. I
can,
agree with that.
yeah. So I think that would be my recommendation for that change.
An appointed employee under the jurisdiction
Yes.
of the Personnel Board, members of the Personnel Committee shall serve without compensation.
Yeah, so.
Mhm. Responsibilities, and if anybody have anything under responsibilities of Personnel Board? Bottom of page 6.
No, and I do like that last part where it says that the personnel board may appoint a person to act as their agent, which we've talked about could be,
Mhm.
Either HR or
Right.
I don't want
Yes.
to give away the authority only because if that job becomes vacant, then the
Mhm.
personnel board has no
Right.
authority to do anything.
Right.
But if the personnel board can delegate that authority, whether it's to HR, whether it's the assistant town
Are
administrator.
you on the
whatever.
delegation of personnel records?
No, at the
Oh.
bottom of 6 where it says responsibility.
Yeah.
I just like the last line where it says the personnel board may appoint a person to
Oh,
act as their agent.
Me too.
Leave that in there is good.
Yeah.
No,
And
absolutely.
it's very vague, so then
Yeah.
you can point, so when, you could say, hey,
Yeah.
whether it's like you've talked about in the past, on evaluations, hey,
Yes.
we can vote to delegate that,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
keeping the records to the,
Right.
to so forth.
Yeah, no. Responsibilities of appointing authorities and department heads. The Personnel Board may enforce provisions of this bylaw and all administrative rules and procedures adopted by the board and may nullify any personnel action accomplished by an appointing authority or department head which does not comply with provisions of the bylaw.
Great. Sounds like I need translation on what the heck that even means.
Yeah.
If an appointing authority, such as the town administrator, decides to just select someone for a position without posting, for example, the board has the right to nullify that action. Essentially, you went outside of the personnel bylaws.
Yeah.
You didn't follow the rules set herein.
So, right,
Perfect.
does that apply, like, for example, the senior center and they appointed somebody, they're a voted committee, is that not applicable? Because that did not go through the personnel board.
What didn't go through the personnel?
Yeah, I
board?
think in situations like the Council on Aging
Mm.
and like Park and Rec, no
Yeah.
different than the school committee.
Mm.
Like if they have their own board that gets voted on and they're the ones hiring.
Your elected board.
They're elected, so I think they make that decision. The personnel board does. I don't think it comes into our purview that way.
I know, I
Yeah.
don't see that in here,
Yeah.
but.
It doesn't call it out that that's the case, but I don't think here that, because I mean,
But-
Park and Rec way back when hired their own directors
Correct.
and that didn't come through the
That's
personnel
right.
board either.
Right.
But to your point, we'll use the senior center as an example, they just hired a senior director. That board does not have the authority to put them anywhere they can't change the grade, exactly. So, and I'm not saying they did, I'm just saying, but based off the bylaws, they couldn't do that. They can
I
hire them.
think this bears further scrutiny. I think what we're looking at is actually understanding what that body can actually do. And I
Yes.
think this is across the board.
Yeah. across the-
And this is something that, I need just more capacity to look into.
Yeah.
But essentially, yes, they are the appointing authority, but they're not an acceptance or exempt from personnel regs maybe.
And that's
And
right.
that's a big, but if we don't have a written process,
Right.
then we don't have a leg to stand on.
Right.
And so if we had a written hiring policy that we could actually go through and say, this is how it's supposed to be done. But and as far as advertising the position, making a selection, appointing someone and putting them on the salary scale, they did everything by the book.
Right, that's, and that was, and
Yeah.
let me make that clear. I
Yeah,
wasn't saying they weren't,
yeah.
I was saying if that's, and I'm not too lazy to look through here, but if that job was posted as a G, they couldn't hire the person, say, I'm gonna put you in an H. They couldn't do that.
No, they couldn't.
Right,
No,
that's
it's a
what I-
classified position.
And they didn't do that. I'm just,
As far as I know, because that position falls under.
right, and I wasn't saying they did. I was just saying that's what this says they can't. That's what my point.
And I'm sure because remember we did a reclass on somebody that worked there, the food person.
Yes. And they came to
So
us.
They came to us before they did it.
And I think this talks about, and you'll see it later in the bylaws, this also talks about disciplinary action.
Yes.
When it says, the personnel board could void any action, to your point, if the town administrator came in and disciplined someone and they could appeal to the personnel board and could say you didn't follow the
Right.
bylaws. That's enough of that.
So the personnel board, under personnel records, the personnel board shall be responsible for establishing and maintaining personnel records as may be required by law, but that's something, we don't maintain records.
No, so this goes back to, if you look at that last line where prior to HR, I think this board was
Yeah.
responsible
was no
for it.
HR.
Now, whether they did it because they're all volunteers,
Right.
but I think that last line again gives us the authority to work with.
So we could put under the personnel's authority, the HR.
Yeah, where it says requested by the
Right.
person or persons assigned responsibility. So we give us again the authority to vote to,
Agree.
Right.
Yep.
because now you have somebody to
Right.
maintain them.
Exactly. Well, cause that's.
Because we did start this when Christine was, remember she was going,
Yeah.
and we talked
Right.
about where are the evaluations? No one knew where they were.
we didn't
Right.
have it.
And then, so again, I like that line. So it gives us the authority after we clean all this up
I agree.
to
Yep.
dish it all off. So we don't have to do anything.
Yeah, correct.
And it seems like that kind of holds true for like this whole section.
Mm.
Yes.
Where it's like the notes that I wrote in my margin were just like HR now.
Yep.
I know we've had some puts and takes around the HR department, but I
Right.
think as Ray gets comfortable and he starts to build out his own, his vision for what the department is, more and more will be able
Yes.
to live where it belongs.
Right.
Right.
But under our purview, if we need to, if there's something there that we need to act on, fine. But I mean, this is HR operational.
I know.
This HR operational activity.
Yes.
Agree. And
I
then-
agree.
It's just we haven't had that in our town.
Right.
We haven't had someone around long enough to build out the department appropriately. HR should not be a department of one.
No,
No.
it should
Like,
not.
It should very quickly become a department of some.
Several.
At
Right.
least 3.
It's coming. It's coming. I promise.
Yeah,
We support
really.
you, so.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. There can also be language in there that says, in the absence of a human resources officer,
Right.
responsibility reverts to the personal.
Yeah. Yeah, just something where it gives you,
Add like 1.3-7, delegation of personnel records. The personnel board by way of majority vote may delegate all necessary powers, duties, and responsibilities related to the personnel bylaws, 1.3 personnel records, and to the human resources manager.
Mhm.
Cause we don't have,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I would just,
or town administrator, town assistant
Yes.
administrator, in the absence of the human resources manager, to such person in the select board in writing.
Mm.
yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It just gives you a broad base
I
of,
think we should,
of-
so, yeah,
Yeah.
add that around the
Yeah.
delegation of personnel records.
Yeah, and I think it shouldn't it though be strictly with HR? Isn't there something with privacy and stuff?
Well,
Yeah, and this is where it gets dicey because yes, and to be completely honest with you, I would love to have council overlook the entire the document in its entirety because I think a lot of this is outdated. But yes, because of privacy issues, and obviously the personnel board is not going to have someone here putting together personnel files,
No.
putting them together.
Right.
So there should always be a delegate. And so that's
so
the
yeah,
roundabout answer to your question.
whomever is, appropriate, but it needs,
Exact-
we
I
need to
agree.
be able to delegate,
Agree. Yep.
by way of majority vote to you. And if
Yeah.
there's nobody beyond that, I'm fine with that.
Ellen,
no,
that
but you're right.
Right.
that language that you read, did that come from a different document, or is that just a
That's something I asked.
so suggested add?
Yes, suggested add.
Good.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, just in my notes.
Perfect.
So then the next part of, on page 8 talks about notices of vacancies, advertises positions, and so,
I just had a couple lines highlighted, Joni, but I think it led back to sort of your statement today, which was, any new positions must be reviewed by personnel board for classification, description, salary. It kind of just roots back to like
yeah.
what you said today, which is like, we just want to act as the personnel board and do what we need to do.
Exactly.
But I didn't have anything else on that page other than just highlighting
Neither.
that was the case.
So just looking really quickly, posting an advertisement of job vacancy notices. So there's something mentioned in 5 days here and stuff. Are we doing that in practice?
From the last position that I advertised, it hasn't been posted on these specific bulletin boards. It's more been waiting about who do I contact about this information,
Mhm.
but with the urgency to hire. And there was an urgency also with the council on aging position,
Yeah.
executive director. We did follow the rest of these bylaws to a letter.
Mhm.
It was just that where those postings are. My understanding is that all of these boards also already have a QR code to it that says, we're hiring. So if you hold up your phone, and so that kind of covers that part where we're not going over there and tacking a job description.
Sure.
to a
Right.
board.
Yeah, I just want to make sure these timeframes are still
Yes, they are.
realistic and,
Well, realistic is another story, but yes, they're being adhered to.
okay.
And I don't know if there's any other rule that kind of governs. For example, the job vacancy notices will be placed in a local newspaper for a minimum of 2 days, at least 14 days
days,
prior to the
right.
closing date. Well, they're only printed on Fridays, and that's 2 Fridays, so that's 2 weeks that we're gathering information. And in my experience, there's no return on investment on posting in a newspaper.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, really.
Joni, can I ask a question? Would it be
Um,
prudent to have Ray take a look at 2.1 under recruitment and appointment and just make sure
Yes.
some of the sections are reflective of today's market?
I
Because
agree
he's
with
the,
that.
I mean,
And
I feel like he's the subject matter expert on this at this point. So just make sure like, one, we're not like archaic. Or
well,
two, if something has
archaic is the
changed,
newspapers
if something's changed,
he
at least you
needs
can
to
make a
change that.
recommendation.
to how, I mean, is it online? Is it, what
Right.
is it? You
Right.
know?
And never, it's always online. It's
Yeah,
just, it's the
exactly.
matter of that posting. I'm a big fan of having, kind of a, if we're in a regular economy and we have the budget and we're attracting the right candidates, if we have a closing date, then, we review all applicants that come through up until that closing date. And then that's when we can start going ahead if we needed to leave it open, for example, to have rolling recruitment. For example, one of our departments wants to continue growing their part-time pool so that as full-time people leave, they can continue filling those positions in. And so the idea behind that is, this position is open with preference for people who apply, 2-week deadline, and then start from that pool like we did with the Council of Aging and then move forward.
You know,
Okay.
it's funny because kind of on that, when you look at B where it says posting and advertising, I'm not sure if the intent is the way that's written. It says it'll be posted 5 days basically, it sounds like you're saying, not you, but it sounds like this was written as if it would be posted for 5 days and open only to those that are already working for the, in the town. And then if they don't take it, then you're going to post it for the 14. Because I don't understand that. Again, when I read this, I don't understand where it says they're going to post it for 5 days in the town hall and in the police station, the fire station, but then we'll post it 14 days in the paper.
So is that generally saying they're gonna post it internally?
See, that's what I'm
That's
asking.
So that's something I was going to bring up also,
Yeah.
in kind of looking at our bylaws for promoting internally.
Yeah.
But also when we're posting something internally and we want to make sure that we're limiting the audience, I don't think a public posting is the right forum for it.
I agree.
Great.
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I'm asking. Is that the intent here? Is it to say, because if that's the intent, we haven't done it. Yeah.
Bulletin.
Before computers, Brian, it's before
I
computers.
think it is a bulletin board that
So
it's just,
bulletin
there's
in
a,
town or there, wherever it is.
I believe so. And then there's a
Thumbtack.
sheet with a QR code with a thumbtack.
Yeah,
There's
thumbtack.
one in my office and
And
you just, you hold your phone up to it and it takes you to the town website.
There you go. I mean, I agree with posting internally for, I
Right.
mean, corporate does it.
Sounds like
Yeah.
we need an intranet.
Even simultaneously, you know what I mean?
That's right. If that's the intent, it should be worded differently, I guess.
You're
Intranet,
really
And
throwing.
we need an
it there.
intranet.
dating your, well,
Mm.
listen,
Well,
used to have an
internally.
intranet.
Intranet.
We're close.
Yeah.
Internal.
Okay, for now,
posting.
leave the bulletin board.
But yeah,
But the newspaper,
but we need to update that. for
Yeah,
sure.
just the way it's worded.
Right.
yeah.
So am I understanding that correctly? The board wants me to go through and make,
I just think on, yeah, I
Suggestions
think
for
on things on
2.1.
recruitment, things that
Yes.
represent day to day, Ray, that
Yeah.
you'd be like, hey, in my experience in the last 5 years I've been working,
Right.
these, let me just like redline the things that I'm telling you, this is not like common practice at this point. At least give us a heads up when we start going from the recruitment and appointment into, the orientation probationary period. Like those are things that I think we'd want to lean on you for a little bit and just get some recommendation if it's like
I agree.
language is
Yep.
just not used anymore.
it would make my job easier.
I know, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, if you could mark that up,
Yeah.
that would be great. Offers of employment on page 9. So it does say, all offers shall be made in writing by the appointing authority. The written offer shall include the salary, the starting date, and appropriate additional information. Copies of the offer letter shall be provided to the personnel board. I have yet to see one.
I haven't been here long enough.
So do we do those? Offer letters?
We do offer letters.
Yes.
The only one that I've seen other than mine that's been pushed through is for the Council on Aging, and they were the appointing authority. Did I bring it to the personnel board? I did not. I can tell you they're by the book, but I can send it to you if you'd like to see it. But if that's one of those things that you want, because it's a personnel file, it's a personnel record.
Yeah, we don't want the personnel file.
But I mean, it's a personnel record for the file, so I don't know, having
Yeah.
discussed already what we want to do with maintaining personnel.
Do we need that?
I don't think we need the actual letter. Maybe like next time, during our meetings, do offers that went out, maybe some type of a report if we need. to.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because I get it, privacy, we don't want the letters and.
Right. Getting back to the Council of Aging. Council of Aging, and I guess they just made an offer to somebody. What is the involvement of the town? I'm very confused about that reporting structure and accountability to the town, seeing the town pays them. That the town pays their salary, but the Council of Aging appears to make all the decisions. Is there a joint accountability to the town before, like, did they just come to you and say, do an offer, or who approved
Yeah.
it down here
Yeah.
at the town? hall?
So they did the offer. They did it on their own. They've had, my understanding, their own process, so to speak. They're following the hiring process or whatever remnants of a hiring process there was. But they've pretty much, they and my understanding other boards that are overseeing and being the appointing authority, their chairs are the ones that are actually issuing these offer letters.
Are
I,
those reviewed by you at all, Ray?
When I get them, I mean, they know where they are making the offer to. And again, I've only been through one. And so, and it's that Council of Aging one, and that person's salary does fall on the pay scale. They are giving sufficient notice. The only thing that I'm asking them is please try to do it on a Monday for payroll purposes, but other than that.
I guess my issue is a bigger issue. We, the town of Clinton, pay them. The town of Clinton Aging Home, or whatever we're calling it, is for the Clinton community. Although the Council of Aging has no accountability or they don't have any accountability to the town of Clinton. So how do we change, how do we go about rectifying this? Do I have?
Yeah.
I think it's probably two pieces. Like one, if that's absent in our bylaws and we're doing.
Correct.
our bylaws,
That's
then
why I
we
brought
add
it up.
language in.
We can add
We
it.
add language in and say,
Exactly, and I
you know, whatever. Like, I mean, if elected boards have the ability to make decisions on people
Behalf
they
of the town
want to
of
hire,
Clinton.
but there's got to be a piece maybe that personnel has to be
There,
involved in.
there needs to be a due reporting structure,
think-
I think. That,
I think I agree with that.
You're right.
And
It's just the way it's always been.
just from a legal perspective,
I hate
for you to look
But I'm
at
saying this is our opportunity to change it because it's the way it's always been.
what's going on, what's being
That's why I bring it up.
negotiated and whatnot. I think it would behoove us to look at those elected boards and their authorities as far as HR goes and build it into the bylaws, so HR has a say in that.
yeah, because it's very dangerous. And so we, the town of Clinton, are responsible for the Council of Aging. You know, we pay these people's salaries up there. The board doesn't pay their salaries, the town of Clinton does, and we have no understanding their performance,
Right.
you know, why people are leaving.
And
I mean,
exactly.
there's a lot of stuff that goes on up there that we should
Mhm.
know about. So whether it's a dual reporting structure, they should have some accountability to the Board of Selectmen and to you
Yeah.
and to us,
I
however
agree.
we want to do it, but
I-
they should.
I think we really should add that into the bylaws. I would definitely agree with that. I mean, what happens if somebody's harassing somebody and they don't do anything?
Ray, did you have
But
to,
yet-
Well, they come to me for that kind of stuff. That
Ray,
kind
did
of stuff is,
did you have to perform a background check on their behalf?
they have access to do it, and I actually want to strip
Go
that
on.
from them. I think I need, so this, what you're talking about in terms of personnel is a bigger issue. It's not just the Council of Aging on Aging. It's not just,
The
you know,
library.
it's not just the library. This is pretty widespread. There is no uniformity in hiring.
Right.
There's no uniformity in the offer. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, there is absolutely no checks and balances on the
Right.
candidates that we're bringing in,
Exactly.
which is a huge, it's
So-
it's a huge issue because all we need is one person to say I got treated differently.
Exactly.
And then
Right.
a can of worms. So what I would like to do is put together a hiring policy that goes through and shows, because I actually applied that and show the Council on Aging how I came up with my recommendations. And unfortunately, I couldn't
And-
enforce it.
But
Because
then-
I think the hiring practices that we abide by here as the town of Clinton, they should be following the same rules.
Unfortunately, we don't really have anything uniform.
Oh,
in
yeah,
terms of
well.
a hiring practice. And that's the problem.
To come to think of it, we had the library here because she was begging for somebody
Yes.
to be employed,
Right.
and they're dictated by their voted board. So
Right.
there's a disconnect.
I think their
Absolutely.
operations are, the personnel work comes from us. And so they do reach out to us. I just got all of the Council on Aging personnel records that should be housed with me.
Mhm.
I did ask for other
Good.
information. It's just a matter of having the time to put together
Mhm.
a policy and having having it approved across the board. And that's,
I don't think you're gonna
Special
have a
meeting.
problem with that. I mean, as far as the town goes, but how do we know that the right person was hired for that job?
And
Right.
we can always
which is why I made that recommendation to them. And unfortunately, I couldn't enforce my recommendations.
and we can make reference to your hiring policy in the bylaws.
In
Because
fact, it
those
could
can
be,
change
right.
without having a bylaw
Right.
change.
Definitely do that.
Anyway, sorry to sidetrack us, but I
No,
thought it
no,
was
that's
important.
good.
No, it's
Good.
important, and it's on my list.
Yeah.
So you're
Good.
not
course it
far
is.
off. I
Yeah.
have a lot of
but-
lists.
Sure, but if.
We're gonna have to put an agenda item on in a future meeting for Ray to share his list with us.
Yeah.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Don't worry.
Like, because if we could make it into this change of the bylaws, just to reference your hiring
Oh,
policy.
I could have
Thank
something
you.
ready for at least the fiscal year.
Okay,
So,
that would be good.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's I mean, I've turned around and gotten hit with different things at different times, saying I'll be able to do it. Don't worry.
Mhm.
But that's my
Home
hope.
at night.
That's my hope. Right. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, oh, we know.
All right, so, moving on to page 10. Department head responsibilities. Does anybody have any?
I don't really know this part.
Do they do 90-day reviews here?
Apparently, we're supposed to.
Yeah, but
But again, I haven't been here long enough to even
Right.
see someone go through it. And it's not like we, if we're fully staffed in the perfect world, because we're so small, the turnover
Mm.
ideally wouldn't be so high that we would be having those so infrequently.
Yeah, I agree with all the language that's on this page. I just highlighted
Mm.
places where I think it's interesting that we articulate what we're supposed to do, but I have a feeling it's not what happens. Just like, town to
So-
establish and provide uniform system for classifying all positions. I think, it's just a matter of like, we're doing that stuff now and we're talking about it, which I think it's great because it's like right there.
right.
To like,
Exactly,
but I think the language is fine.
yeah, I
just think we
agree.
need to make sure.
And I was happy to see the equitable pay, because isn't there a whole reg that just went out for pay equity or something like that?
Yes, and the study that was done in 2017 and in 2022, those were both supposed to have an equity lens to them, as I read them. The problem is that there's not really anything to compare it against when the positions aren't very traditional in the sense, and I believe this and the department head responsibilities is a discussion to define a department head as it relates to the classification of positions. Just thinking off the top of my head, a department head is responsible for making sure that so and so happens, but who's defining what a department head is or what a department is? Because we don't have those positions leading those departments. We have one-off positions.
Wow.
We don't have a director leading, we have a building inspector. We don't have a commissioner, like
Mhm.
things like this to consider.
So, I'm sorry, moving on. On the compensation plan. Where's point two? Where are my notes? Oh, sorry, it's on the next page, so go ahead.
I got nothing on 11.
Nothing on 11.
No, tell me about the annual performance evaluations.
I know as much as you do,
Yeah.
Okay, so those probably.
unfortunately.
So, is it manual or is it on a system?
Everything in the town of Clinton is manual. Yeah.
Okay. Do we tie employees?
Yeah.
I don't know if it says that
Everyone
here,
gets some
but,
shot.
we should be tying merit increases to employees' performance. I mean, as part of it, not solely, but it should be one of the evaluation factors.
Agree.
So I don't know how we put that in here.
It's not very common in public to do it that way anymore. With the public sector, what it is a tool to grow an employee.
Yeah,
And you'll actually find a lot of pushback on whether or not the employee evaluations actually do anything for employees in the public sector. You'll find a lot of published on whether or not they do something, and it's very convoluted, only because of the different sizes of communities and the different types of communities that exist throughout the country. What I will say is that they have been used to improve an employee's performance, to be part of the employee's personnel record, to serve as kind of like that first step in the warning. Um, and I would say that a lot of communities, just to add to that first point I was making, they don't really adopt them unless there is something in their union counterparts, so that there is an equitable treatment of employees across class systems.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
That was a
I
whole
don't agree. I mean, honestly, but who am I? I do think part of the evaluation should be I mean, you're gonna have better you're gonna have, 3 or 4 employees in one department, and you're always gonna have a higher performer than another. Why shouldn't that person get more money?
We don't really have like positions. So that kind of takes that incentive out of there. Everyone here is the only person that does what they do.
Yeah, true,
True.
okay.
Yeah, there's no competition.
Yeah, I guess,
true.
good point.
But we can fix that.
Yeah.
The one thing this merit increases, and I don't have the wording for it, but I think it kind of touches on when we had the position that came here, where it was 2 people in the office, and one of them wanted to increase the pay of his assistant. Well, we didn't have, I don't know if you were here at the time. If you were, you were just getting hired, but we had no authority to do it. In other words, he was hired at whatever letter at step 2. So here he's been here, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. He came to the personnel board, his department head, and wanted to say, hey, he's been working, he's been doing all this. He'd like to up him a couple steps, and we didn't vote because we had no authority. Because there was nothing in place in the personnel bylaws. Once you're hired at step 3, it doesn't say the town administrator can go back and it says the town administrator has the authority to put you on the pay grid he wants. But once you're on there, there's nowhere in there that gives any board the authority to move you, which kind of goes into this merit thing. Is if, I don't think it should be somebody coming in going, hey, he's doing a great job, bump him up 3, but, documents to say, to Ellen's point, hey, this person's been here 3 years, and, here's all they've done, and here's evaluations and other, certifications they've gotten. So there'd be something in either the personnel board or something, giving someone the authority, whether it's the town administrator or this board, to say, give them a merit increase, because right now there isn't.
Right. And that I would say that as something that's separate from merit, because I also think that's something to consider when we're talking about retention. An employee who's coming here saying, I have an offer that's giving me
Yeah.
$5,000 more, and we have $5,000 on that pay scale to give it to them, and that department head has it in their budget, it should be at their discretion, in my opinion.
Agree.
Agree.
Exactly.
But
I don't know whose discretion. It'd be just somebody's.
Well, the discretion for the salary, does it, and just fill me in, because I'm still new at having
Well-
to talk to all these boards, but does the personnel board need to approve the step that an employee is hired at?
No. So what it is now is the personnel board sets the letter grade, and what
Right.
step they're put on, the town administrator is the one that does that. And
Right.
I believe, I think that was something that the select board voted to give the town administrator that authority to do that. And I don't know how long, it's been a number of years. I've been here 10, I think, so it's been more than 10. But in fact, I believe when you talk about the senior center, I believe that it's still the town administrator would determine where on the salary
Right.
step that
Started.
yeah.
So if a manager in his discretion to say,
Just the way it was
hypothetically
delegated.
wanted to retain that employee and give them $5,000, who needs to approve that?
I think this should go to the town administrator, and think they should just, here you go. They have to show that they
Yeah,
have
I
it in their
think-
budget, get approval from the finance committee that it's in their budget.
Yeah.
And then ask the,
So that's something I think
Chair Stan.
there should be some steps written in.
It should be reviewed by you.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
But I'm saying, we need to write that down because it.
Right.
Right now, there is no authority at all. There's nothing.
Right.
But you're right.
That's
And then-
right.
Language could include
Yeah, I
category.
mean, we're talking all in theory, right?
should
be-
These
Gotta be
steps
checked.
don't exist
Has to be
right
written
now.
person.
So
Or saying
it's just
they should.
broad-based,
We wanna add-
this is what it should be, but right, it would be on the board to consider what those steps would be, and absolutely HR review, but I can't see a reason why I would decline other than an employee's past performance.
Right.
Right.
But
exactly.
still, the awareness and you seeing that, I mean, something could, raise a red flag. I don't know, but it should be the manager, you, and the town administrator.
And there probably should be some cap language in there.
Yeah.
Like you can do
Yes.
this, but no more than, not
Yeah,
to exceed X.
I wouldn't put any of that in writing. I
No?
would actually, if we were to write that out, we would, what we could do is say that, you know, a manager can make or a department head can make an appeal to the town administrator for this position
Gotcha.
and recommend this, and the
Right.
town
So
administrator
that way you
can
don't
counter,
handcuff yourself.
Mhm.
or HR can counter. But that's one of those personnel actions that, one of the many personnel actions that we have that, well, that one doesn't happen, but we have a lot of them that we just don't track. We don't even have a form for them. So
Okay.
that's in development also.
Yeah, I agree with, there should be something in place,
Yeah.
but I think there should be more of a, and I don't have the answer to it, but more of a checks and balances, because in a small town, when you put it on one person, you know, half the town's related, you know, so it's hard to go in there and say, hey, you know, this guy works hard for me. I want to give them a $5,000 raise. Who wants to be the voice of saying, or the face of saying no? Where if you had a board or more than one or some other, again, I don't know what right looks like, but some other check and balance where you could come back and say, you know, it's just,
Absolutely.
you've only been here 3 years, or you know, you're not all that, you know. Probably not the way
So
that-
I think we need
But
to-
some wording on that, yeah.
Yes.
Are you guys moving on to another page?
Yep,
Okay,
no,
so-
page 12.
I don't even know where we are.
On page 12.
We're on page 12 right now. We talked a little bit about merit
Mhm.
increases. We have the overtime. Ray,
I just had something I wanted to add on COLA. On the compensation plan.
mm,
So like in addition, after 3.26 promotion, non-union employee cost of living adjustments. The objective is to ensure the employee compensation remains competitive, fair, and in alignment with the town's financial capacity. The human resources manager shall be responsible for recommending an annual COLA for non-union employees to the personnel board, based on the review of the current cost of living data, including the CPI for the area analysis of local market, blah, 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 trends, and the finance committee recommendation based on relevant budgetary data and financial projections to assist in ensuring the town's capacity to support COLA. The personnel board shall review the human resources manager's recommendation and supporting data, and by the way of the majority vote, may approve the proposed COLA as recommended, modify the recommendation based on additional considerations, or reject the recommendation and request further analysis or alternative proposal. Any modification to the recommended COLA may not exceed the finance committee's budgetary recommendations. So I think we need to put some structure around that, because I think that it's free reign here on COLA.
I'm sorry, you had that written?
Yes, I
as
have
your
that. I can give this to you.
Thorough.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't have
No,
purview
no,
over
no, I
COLA.
thought it was my addition. That
Yeah,
was my
yeah, that'd be
addition.
3.27.
3.7,
okay.
under promotion, add that.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's any purview over COLA here. That's all finance committee. We
And
can't,
it shouldn't be.
it's really what's available, and I understand that you think it shouldn't be, but there's nothing I can do about that,
No, but
to be quite frank.
we're suggesting we add it to the bylaw.
Right, but I can't make a recommendation on COLA. In fact, I'm not qualified to, so I won't.
Why would you as the HR manager, knowing, what other towns are doing, why wouldn't that be fair for you to do that?
I'm not in the position to even answer that. It's not something that HR guides in any town.
think
HR
they
sets
should.
the schedule, but it's a finance decision whether or not the town is able to give that.
So
COLA
where do they get
increase.
that data?
Where did they get what data?
The data for the cost of living adjustment?
Up to the 3%, it's pretty typical.
I know, but I'm saying, I just don't think it should be I don't think the finance committee should be approving what we give non-union.
Yeah, I don't know who the body is that approves the COLA adjustments. I don't know who the body is that approves the COLA adjustments.
Yeah, so I'm saying we need to research this a little bit,
Mhm.
because I don't think that I think they should only have approval based on budgetary.
That is budgetary, I would argue.
Yeah.
They're the ones that set that rate.
Yes, but I would like data. I want data supporting how they came to that conclusion
Sure.
and who gets what. I mean, I'm just saying, maybe not everybody gets a cost of living increase.
Yeah, I'm,
So I guess maybe it needs more discussion, but, I just don't think it should be solely the finance.
I
committee.
believe in
Huh?
I believe the way it's done is, so the finance, to Ray's point, the finance committee crunches the numbers and they see, for lack of a better term, what's left. But then they meet with this, because I think there's a two finance committee and two select board members. They have like a joint.
I'm not sure.
I believe when they
Process
get
every
when they crunch the budget, they each put two on that board and they kind of figure out a budget, and then they go back and the select board approves it and this finance committee approves it, and that's the budget that's set for town meeting. But
But the personnel board has nothing.
No,
to
no,
do
no,
with
no,
that,
I'm not-
and
I'm not-
So I'm surprised.
no, you're right.
Yeah.
I believe it's kind of what you're saying, what's left. They look at
Yeah.
the town budget and they say, and all non-union employees do get the same COLA. They
Right,
don't- They don't.
Because that's
Right.
cost of living, not
Right.
for,
Right.
you don't get cost of living because you
Because I
don't
mean,
live here.
basically, when if the money's tight, they're tied to the union contract, so they have to pay them first.
Right, that takes
I hate to
precedence.
say it, and that's what's happened. But to your point, maybe there is something where you could say, hey, they, at least, the finance committee at least brief something, I don't know how to word it.
Yeah, even
Right.
if it's a select. board, you know,
Right, I think
don't
they do
know.
a joint
There needs to
board.
be some checks and balances.
Yeah.
It'd probably be a good idea to make the note to ask what
Yeah.
today's process is and how we come to it before we make
Yeah, we can.
a recommendation on what it ought to replace it, if we don't even know how it happens today.
Yep, no, I mean, yeah, 'cause I mean, it is kind of getting a little late.
Yeah, yeah.
But, that being said, just a couple more, so down, page 17, there's nothing, in FMLA, should, there should be something in here regarding that. What's your opinion, Ray?
I have language to that in my office.
I think we should add it.
We have language that was proposed to I don't know if it was this board or the last board. I do have it. It's part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
an edit.
I'm
I
sure
can take it.
MLA law has changed since this document was written.
No.
It was a done.
There wasn't
FMLA,
such a thing back then.
there's FMLA and parental leave. That
Yeah.
also needs to be included. Small necessities leave. Those
Yeah.
those are all part of a draft.
To add that all to section 5 with, the use of sick time and all of that.
Well, I had some more around
Yeah.
compensation, but we probably should have another
Oh,
meeting.
no,
I know
we
it's getting
definitely
late,
should.
yeah.
Yeah. Go, yeah, no, go.
No, it's all right. I've been bringing up another time, because it's just around step progression.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what is that?
Step progression policy for non-union municipal employers are eligible for step progression on the approved salary schedule. No employee may advance more than one step per fiscal year, regardless of performance or other factors, including modifications of the existing salary schedule or the implementation of a new salary schedule. Employees must have completed 1 full year of service in their current position to be eligible for step progression. One-time exceptions to the limitation now only be approved by the person on board, subject to documented justification.
So Ellen, this would speak to the few years back. Folks jumped multiple
Yeah.
steps
Yeah.
and basically overnight
Yeah.
landed
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
$20,000
And that's
raises
great.
because we never had any language that.
So that shouldn't have happened.
And there was language that said they shouldn't have. Right? So they shouldn't jump more than one step a year.
That's right.
Well, they did a salary study a few years back. What the net of it was, there were folks that, literally went from being at one step
Good
till like
for me.
overnight
They
after it
should
was approved at
before.
town meeting, jumping
Okay.
a lot of steps.
Right.
So I think just trying to make sure there's some guardrails and language in there that we don't land in that same spot where we're not phasing things in versus like
The only
jumping
thing,
right to it.
the only other thing I think, and I don't need an answer right now, but if you look at the top of page 17, it's an admin error, and they were talking about, excuse me, accumulating, it's the top 5.3.2.
Yeah.
So it talks about the accumulation of sick time, right? So the third sentence down, sick leave may be accumulated from year to year, the maximum of 240, and in parentheses, it says 360.
Yeah.
So my
That.
So my recommendation is, and I think it's kind of the way that some of the teacher contracts are, is you can accumulate, and I'm just throwing out a number, anybody can do what they want. You can accumulate 300 days, but you can only sell back when you retire 240 or some number on that idea. So that, and that's a lot of a lot of the other contracts are written that way is, you can, so it's not keeping you, not saying after 20 years, you can never accumulate another day, but you're not going to stack,
Right.
cause you can only sell it back. I believe it's 20%.
20%.
20%. So you're talking, what's that, 480 days or whatever at that rate. That's a pretty good chunk of change, but I don't know what the number should be, but we got to clean that up one way or
Yes,
another.
Yeah,
as I say, two different things.
You know.
I
Yeah,
agree.
there's, and I have edits and recommendations on that also.
Oh, okay,
This
good.
from a prior one. This is actually pretty restrictive. I actually, don't get me wrong, the 240 is super generous. It's more than GIC even gives.
Mhm.
It's usually in hours. They go up to 900 hours or 120 days to max out. The language that's in here now, I would contend is a little bit against the law. You can only use 12 days of your accumulated time or carry over only 12. It's, it's subject to wage law, just like our personal time, our vacation time. It's actually given to us as part of our compensation package. And so that our benefits in terms of the sick leave and use and accumulation needs to be overhauled.
Okay, so we will,
But that's probably a good idea too, is instead of putting it in days where people are working, because there are different, I will talk about it because you're right. We talked about it earlier. When you have part-time employees, their
Report.
day is not 7 hours. And actually no day is 8
Yeah.
hours. They're all 7 hours here,
Yeah.
right? 35 hours. So it's right. It is kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
that
Yeah.
definitely.
We just got to clean up one way or another. I'm not
Right.
advocating one way or another.
No, I mean, I have language from a prior edit that I was looking at, and a lot of it I agreed with, and some of it I was like, we could do a little bit better.
Perfect.
And, I don't know where, we haven't talked about this in any of our last meetings, but we had a proposal, Mike was getting a time track system here. Do you have any inclination on, that was supposed to be done
Right.
like a couple months ago?
Like a self-service time and attendance, is that what you mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I don't have much of an update as far as where that is in terms of implementation. I am asking about it in a meeting tomorrow with the vendor. It's not related to that. Meeting with them to essentially maximize use of the system as an HRIS system if we can,
Sure.
if it's possible.
Absolutely.
But on top of that, this sick accumulation and tracking time would be part of that
Okay.
whole conversation, because we need to be able to execute what's in the personnel bylaws
Yeah.
to be able to actually make that work.
Right.
Right.
Otherwise, it's pretty pointless.
Right.
And we also need a policy on time tracking,
Mhm.
or we cannot enforce it.
Agree. We need to have
Yeah.
something other than manual and, there is no checks and balances. I
No.
mean, so
So-
fair, anybody's game.
Are they using it now or
It's not
we were
in,
just doing still paper?
we're still doing paper if people turn it in.
Mhm. Yeah, that really.
That was
has
supposed to be implemented already.
And I get it when they got it in, somebody left and there were ways and things,
I
but
think
it's
that-
time.
That'll be super helpful too, because, a lot of times you could have situations where folks are out of the office on vacation, but they're not coding it as a vacation.
Exactly.
So
Right.
now they're off, it's paid time off. They may be getting paid at their normal wage, but they're accumulating vacation days.
Mhm.
So we're not even
Right.
decrementing the fact that they used a vacation day.
Exactly.
So I think that'll be helpful too, because that's
Right.
kind of stuff we need to know, like you have time and you have what the time actually is. And if we're not able to appropriately put our finger on it because we're
Can,
tracking it
It's
somewhere, that could be a
essentially
challenge.
people are falsifying their time cards because
Exactly.
they're not putting down when they're out.
Right.
I mean,
and that
It's
is a
happening.
disciplinary
right.
thing.
But
Getting back to that sick time. So if you're right, we can carry over 12 days a year. So are you saying you can't cap the number of days that I could have on the books, for example, right?
We can cap the number of days
Okay.
you can have on the books. We can set a cap on most of the
Yeah.
things.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What we can't do is say, here's 15 days of sick time. You can only use 3.
Oh, no, that wasn't my,
You know
no.
what I mean? Like there's that
Right.
language in there that says like, here's 15 days, but if you don't use 15, you can only carry over 12. Well, I have 15 days. That's my time that I've earned as
Right.
part of my compensation package. You should be able to carry that over. But to change that,
Oh,
that
okay, I misunderstood.
and
you. Okay.
anything else that has to do with paid time off, I'm wondering if this is something that needs to be factored into the budget somehow. If it requires further approval, we can make a proposal. But I'd like to find out whether or not we need that.
So I think the only time it would come in, well, I know the only time it would come into the budget, okay, like I work here, right? So if I've been carrying over, I can carry over 12 days as of right now every year. The only time that's ever going to come in the budget is if I work 20 years and I sell it back.
Mhm.
Because other than that, to your point, it's still my sick time, whether I burned it 15 days this year or 15 days next year, it's still it's not a budget issue unless I sell it back.
Well, I think it becomes a budget issue when we're talking about the amount of time that you can actually use.
To use.
You know, because we can't restrict an employee, for example, who needs to go on FMLA and needs to use all of their time. You can't do that,
Right.
especially if it's our policy that you need to use your time. It doesn't make any
Right,
sense.
but I'm saying they're already budgeted for, they already have I mean, they're already getting my sick time and they don't pay, we're not they don't hire substitutes for us either. So it's not really
Right, but we could be in a position where we could.
yeah.
Mm.
And my real concern around that whole thing is, people are costing this town a lot of money because they're out sick and they're not putting it down. So,
Exactly, and
and,
that was,
and they're on vacation and they're not putting it down. So
and that was.
they're getting double, we're getting, the town's paying,
Exactly,
the
and
town's
that's
getting
why-
screwed.
I mean, when you're speaking with them, can we get an ETA as to when that's gonna be implemented?
Well, unfortunately, that's lying with Mike, so I would have to talk to Mike about that. When I'm speaking
Okay,
with them
okay.
tomorrow, it's more about what capabilities do we have to prepare for that? Because if we're looking, for example, at, that should have been in fine, but if there's nothing in there for us to actually push it through to do the approvals because the system's very minimally used, then the self-service is useless to us. So we have to make sure that my meeting with them tomorrow is to say, to ask what our capability is,
Yeah.
what information can I add in there to make sure that we have employees who are titled in the system, employees who have title, and C, for employees to actually charge time to a locale rather than just to put something into a system. Because right now we're not even there's no sick bank in the system. So what are they charging it to?
Right.
So we are going to have to go back for each employee and track how much time they should have over the length of their career here.
Mm-hmm.
That's been reported.
It is a huge project, but it's really needed. I mean, it could.
Yeah.
prevent-
Yeah.
And I can always say from mine, and I know he retired, but when John was the treasurer, at the end of every fiscal year, he used, and I don't know if everybody got this, obviously it was one email just to myself, so assuming he sent it to everybody, but he would, excuse me, he would reconcile at the end of that year. So Brendan, as of 30 June, this is how many sick days we had. Because then July 1st, you get reset. So John may have something. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Go to.
We don't know if he's tracking it.
I don't know, but ever since John has been here the last couple of years, but every June he would send to me like, hey, like I got hired in February. So that June, as of June 30th this year, 2015, here's how many sick days you
But I'm
have.
s- Yeah, so
So
what
it's
I'm
like a
asking is,
min-
did that go out to?
Oh, yeah,
every-
yeah,
Did
yeah,
that go
John,
out to every employee?
I don't know because it was all private. So I was the only one on that email to myself. But you're right. He probably sent it to everybody. And there really aren't that many. It was just
Just
non-union
don't know where
employees in the
checks
building.
and balances are from the manager to the employee to the superior, right?
No, but it
So-
wasn't, because it didn't count the union employees.
But I'm saying there isn't
Right.
it.
No, I hear what you're saying. No.
Let us know what you find out, Ray. I mean, because obviously
Exactly.
It's a big
it's
problem.
gonna be a lift. It's not
Yeah.
gonna be overnight, but I think everybody
Right.
acknowledges the importance of it for certain.
It's very important, exactly.
It's on my radar.
Yeah, without data.
That among
legislate
other
it.
things, but that system is going to be a big help for my position and for the treasurer's office. So we're working
Exactly.
together to make sure we can get that going.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
But you're right.
Mostly
When
for the
the system
report.
came in, at least the treasurer had, at least Meg could go back and look at what John, at least have a starting point.
Yeah, so we're looking at what we have access
Right.
to from when John was here, but we've been working very well together to start getting things
Yeah, like I
updated.
said,
So
at least it gives us.
we want to make sure whatever changes we make in there doesn't impact the accounting. And that's our biggest worry
Right.
right now.
Okay, good. Then we will look forward to hearing.
Yeah, we can pick up
What
the
you
rest of
think.
this later.
Yeah, it's kind of, we can regroup, but I think we need to.
Yeah, that's great.
I'll make a motion to adjourn,
Second.
Madam Chair.
Second.
Well, meeting adjourned.